All right, guys, we're here with Seth Getz, and I'll just start with Seth. Will you tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do?
Sure. So I currently live in Holland, Michigan, from a variety of places. I grew up in Vermont and Chicago, stuff like that, but married and have three kids, 11, 9, and 7. As much as possible, I like to get them out and traveling and learning about the world and stuff like that. So that's been great. For work, I am an entrepreneur. I am a small business coach. I coach a lot of small businesses around Michigan, some spread around the world. And let's see, in addition to that, I manage a marketing company and am an entrepreneur in residence at a Hope College. So lots of
Fantastic.
fun stuff to do.
It is a lot of fun stuff, and it sounds like your life is full and vibrant with all of that, which is beautiful.
It
So
really is. And the kids really add a lot to that, I gotta tell you. I never knew it was quite so much fun having kids. They're a blast.
that's fantastic. A very positive icing on the cake. So Seth, would you just tell me a little bit about your story? I know we've connected online via, thinking about immigration and why it's important to your world. I would love to just hear a little bit from you on, why you care about this subject and what that's meant to you and your family.
So I have not as much personal contact with people who have struggled through immigration. But I've looked at it. I still remember growing up and reading about Ellis Island, reading about how we are a nation of immigrants, reading about how we are a melting pot. And in many ways, I was just so proud of the fact that this is the country that when people want opportunity, when people want to do something good, when they said, I want to do something amazing, they turn their eye to this country. And that was just something that was always, I was very proud of that fact. And I knew reading growing up that there was all of these undocumented people that were here, and that there were some problems with that, but it never really struck me as being a urgent issue. And then I began hearing all of the complaints about it, about how they were freeloading, about how they were causing trouble and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, I don't see it. But I think a slight turning point was kind of a strange one. I was reading Bill Bryson's book.
I love Bill
Called
Bryson.
One Summer. Yes, he's kind of fun. He's a great storyteller. I don't know how he does it.
I'm currently reading his Notes from a Big Country, so I can connect with you on loving him.
Yeah. So I read his book One Summer, talking about 1927. And he had just done a tremendous amount of research, reading all the newspapers that he could get a hold of what happened over the course of this one summer in 1927. And that was, of course, the big year was when Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic, when Babe Ruth was famous in baseball, and stuff like that. But what struck me was the anger and hatred towards immigrants.
Mm.
And the immigrants that were hated at that time were the Irish, the Jewish, the Russians, and Italians.
Mm.
And they were blamed for pretty much every social ill that happened in the country. When there was an anarchist attack, they were blamed for it. When there was a school bombing, they were blamed for it.
Mm.
Almost everything that came up, they were blamed for it initially, even though it turns out that they didn't have much to do with any of it. But that struck me as, why is that? And why do we have this fear of the outsider? And I also looked at it and said, okay, wait a minute, look at those groups. Those groups, look at them now.
Mm.
They are the bedrock of our country. Yeah. They are the model citizens of our country. And yet here, less than 100 years ago, they were the most reviled group. And so I looked at it and said, there's something wrong in the way we think about it. We are a nation of immigrants. Everyone in this country is a few generations removed from immigration. Why is there this hatred of them? And so I knew that something was wrong. And that got me looking more into what's going on as far as the rules and what's happening with that. And I said, okay, this is wrong too. This is not right. And the fact that there is undocumented, I didn't realize just how much that has to do with us
Mm.
in our laws, and just how impossible we've made it, and yet how much good is coming out of it.
Were there
So that
any
was kind of
were there any surprises as you were discovering that it was really impossible for people to gain legal entry that stood out to you?
part of it was I realized the history of our immigration policy and how politicized it was.
Mm.
I realized how racial it was. And that history was what struck me. And then looking at it today and saying, if we want economic growth in this country, if we want excellence in this country, we want immigrants, as many as come. Who are immigrants? Immigrants are typically young people who have guts to be able to leave everything that they know, who have vision for something bigger and better, and they've got the will and determination to actually do something, really step out of their comfort zone, do something so hard and step into this country.
Mm.
If there's someone that gutsy, that determined, that visionary, call me biased, call me selfish, I want them here. I really want them here. You know,
Those are
that's
the
who I
kind of
want.
people who are going to build and invent and do incredible
Right.
things.
I mean, look at the stats of it. The fact that an immigrant is more than twice as likely to start a business as a native born person. I work with small business owners.
Mm.
They're the best people in the world. They all have the idiosyncrasies, but I love them. They're just great. Okay. They come from this background.
Mm.
I want that in this country. I want those people in this country. I so love, I mean, it's overused, but I still love what it says in the Statue of Liberty.
Mm.
If you're poor, you're hungry, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free.
Yeah,
That's who I want.
it's
I
powerful.
want them all.
All right, so last question, Seth. It's a difficult conversation right now to talk about immigration. And as you've kind of highlighted, there's some history to moments when we're very polarized over it and often not in a good way. Is there anything that you are hopeful for in this subject? What gives you hope, and what would you hope for in seeing a better conversation or a better national possibility to come out of welcoming immigrants?
I'm given hope by looking at history again. And the fact of looking at the present time of, I'll take 1927 again, and how much they were hated and vilified, and yet what came out of it. Look at the next 100 years and how those groups have been such an awesome contributor into our country, into our culture, into everything that we do. That's my hope, is that yes, there's still going to be hatred. There's still going to be anger spewed. There's still going to be horrible rules and laws and regulations that mess things up, that tear apart families and stuff like that. But I believe that it'll come out in the end that those people who are vilified today will look back and say, well, what were we thinking? They were the best possible that we could have in this country. The best thing that ever happened to our country was them coming here.
That's fantastic. Well, Seth, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.